All right, thank you for staying with Daybreak. We'll still continue the conversation. Now, there's a conversation in the National Dialogue Committee. They're supposed to give their report on Saturday. But will it capture the aspirations of Kenyans? That's where the conversation really is. They had a closed-door session with Professor Njuguna Ndung'u, who simply told them that whatever they're proposing in terms of lifting some of the taxation has to wait. So what then happens, the cost of living? And no, Senator Nyonka, that's where we begin. Do you believe that this report will capture the aspirations of Kenyans, having had what is going on there? And I know you've heard of other proposals.
I pray so.
Okay.
For me, you've seen, Trevor, in design, the way a cylinder is designed, it works under compression. And that cylinder, the only way it manages to survive itself as it's functioning is that it has a valve. A gate valve is usually what opens at a certain time to release pressure and make sure that whatever cylinder it is, whether it is a tire cylinder, whether it's a high-pressure cylinder for air and whatever. Why am I using this analogy? These discussions that are taking place at Bomas is our gate valve. In other words, we need an outlet where we can be interrogating ourselves, interrogating the issues that exist in our country in good faith, where we tell each other the truth. Because what happens in a country, if you are not able to kind of balance the issues which are happening, because, I mean, Trevor, to me, our country is split 50-50 politically. How great it would be if the outstanding issues that have been raised, those that we can agree on, we can pick them up. Those that we find difficult to agree on. For example, I will tell you this, and I'm in the Azimio Alliance. I don't see that there is much that we can do in terms of asking the president, who has already passed a law, all right, the finance bill, which has given him the mandate to actually increase the taxes. There isn't much we can do that. What we can do is tell him that the Kenyan public is saying people are feeling hurt, people are feeling pain because we are in a position we are in. My honest evaluation is if the government, especially President William Ruto, receives this report and with our party leader Raila Odinga and the Azimio coalition, let us agree that we are going to pick those items which we agree on. Right, we agree we need the IEBC. We agree that we need to reconsider. I do not know what the report is going to recommend about whether we need to increase the number of counties or not. You can see very hot issue. You're having a war right now in the Sabaot in Trans Nzoia, which is Kitale area, vis-a-vis the Bukusu community. That is because the Sabaot feel they have been marginalized all the years. You go to Kuria, the issue between the Kuria and the Luo community in Nyanza, especially Migori County. In Kisii, you have people who feel that we need to have a third county because if you go to the Gucha area, it's vast, it is big, and why can't we? So these are issues that we have to wait and see what the report recommends.
Yeah.
If the report recommends that we can't have, because of the economic circumstances and because whatever reason there is, if we can't have the increment of the counties, I don't see a contradiction if we increase the constituencies. Okay. For the simple reason that a constituency is the unit where funds are now being transmitted, I mean, from the national government to the CDF to the sub-counties. My argument is there are so many things in this country that we can agree as a country, that we can agree to fix. So many of them. We can disagree about cost of living. In fact, my honest feeling, Trevor, if the president doesn't think that the cost of living has nothing that he can worry about, then heck, I'm just going to sit there and wait for the next 4 years and see what happens when the elections come. Because the public will react directly to his management and treatment of this tax issue. You can see the issue on oil. You can see the issue on food now. There's a change and things are happening. I'm very happy that the government, Madam Thabita, has brought maize dryers. I mean, these are things we should have done 50 years ago. So what we can agree as a country, can we please agree as a country? Those items, if there are 10, if we agree on 7, that's good enough. Okay. Next time we'll deal with the third. Okay. So I'm very optimistic. I am actually very positive that somehow, even when it looked like this exercise of the discussions that are taking place in Bomas between our leader, Mzee Kalonzo Musyoka, and my brother, Kimani Ichung'wah, even when it looked like these talks were not having much coming out of them, I am very positive that whatever the recommendations that are going to come out, that which we can change at the National Assembly, at the Senate, without necessarily going for the referendum, can we do it?
Okay.
Those which require a referendum, let's be brave enough and courageous and agree that we are now going to set up this. Finally, we need to have the IBC set up. Why? Because today, if you had a senator pass on, or if you have a governor's pass on, we can't have elections.
Okay.
So these are things, there are those ones which are going to come in as priority, and there are those which will come up as second phase. And I believe that we should be able to try and mitigate and argue where we need to capacitate our country and make sure that our country runs better, and we bring in an agenda that is progressive, that is going to help Kenyans, so be it.
Okay. And Mungatana, at a time when there's a lot of blame game going on, in fact, for the first time we heard the former president, Uhuru Kenyatta, saying, I am being blamed for everything. What sort of outcome do you expect from this NADCO, as the National Dialogue Committee?
You know, in negotiations, generally, for any person who has done this kind of thing and experience, there is the public posturing and there's the real deal. So for me, when Kalonzo Musyoka stood up the other day and started saying, this is a deal breaker, you know, that to me was just public posturing. And you see, we have to be honest with ourselves. When they made that announcement, you know, and it was made where Uhuru Kenyatta was, it prompted Aaron Cheriot, who is our Senate Majority Leader, and sits in the same committee, to say something in retaliation. So for me, I think this public posturing, we should get rid of it. Okay. Let us have something solid that comes out of, and I don't believe we will get 100% agreement. I mean, that's why we are in different sides of the political divide. I don't think we will get 100% agreement. But I take exception to people who try to bring threats, intimidation into discussions, you know. As for Uhuru Kenyatta, I don't know where the person resurrected from, you know. Me, I had basically forgotten about this gentleman, and nobody really was talking about him, really. You know, let's be honest, for the last 1 month. First of all, when his children were, people were asking for the guns to come out, that's when he appeared the last time. Then after that, he went to England, blah, blah. So what we know is that he's in retirement. Then all of a sudden, he comes up, you know, and when he comes up, I don't know, instead of talking something spiritual about the nation and blessing the country or something, he starts mumbling things about the current politics. You would wonder, when the former President Moi retired, we saw him, you know, take his chopper all the way to Kabarak. And the old man retired in a very dignified manner. I remember also paying a courtesy call to him. And he would talk about Tana River, remember the old people who were there who worked with him. Moi, the only time he would surface is when maybe you have, at the beginning, when I think his health was good, he would attend some nationally significant functions. Yeah. President Kibaki, the same thing. He retired in a very dignified silence. He would appear maybe to bury some of the politically significant people. Yeah. And otherwise, he would retreat to his place and stay there.
He said he's retired but not tired, President Uhuru Kenyatta.
Uhuru Kenyatta, on the other hand, comes out. I mean, we have very young presidents and leaders who have retired and they still carry themselves in dignified manner. In fact, Cameron, the former Prime Minister of Britain, he was even called now to become a foreign secretary just the other day, if I'm not wrong. You know, Tony Blair has been given some international duty by his government. You know, you can retire in a very respectable manner where you are not going, nobody is going to be following you. But when you stand up and start saying things like everyone is blaming me, what, there's a Kiswahili saying, Trevor, that says, usirushe mawe kwa police station kama mbio huna. You understand? And I don't think he has the energy if we open on him. Because just one meeting, even during the campaigns, they were just doing one meeting. We would do 5 in one day at the presidential level. He does one service, we can do for him 20. So he should just remain silent because it is not necessary for him to engage at this level. He has a political party.
Straight because he's been blamed for
no, he's not. Nobody was talking about him. Just look at the media. Who was talking about Uhuru? When he came up is when now people reminded him that he sold the dollars. He sold the dollars, and 60% of that money that was used to stabilize the Kenyan currency. Now, 60%, allegedly, in the open market, when they were selling these dollars, 60% of that went to his private farms.
Those are allegations again.
They are not allegations. Yes. They are not allegations. So I want him, you know, because let me tell you something. This guy is a person we knew, okay? And we respect him.
Okay.
Why get into these murky waters? And nobody was talking about him. In fact, we were debating here. We were debating in other forums. Between ourselves and the opposition. Between ourselves and the opposition. Between the government, nobody was talking about Uhuru. He surfaced up to ruffle the waters. And now when he gets the fire back, now people start saying, what was the attention he was trying to divert? I'm wondering. What was he trying to divert? What attention was he trying to divert?
All right.
Why can't he just relax? No, I'm just saying, why can't he relax, carry himself in dignified silence, like the way President Moi did, the way President Kibaki did? Some of us are very conflicted because we knew him at a personal level, and it is very bad for us to actually attack a retired president. It is not a comfortable position to be in. Let him veer off these manenos and nobody will disturb him.
All right, Mutinda, we were talking about the National Dialogue Committee outcome, but there's also the statements that the president made. What do you think? Was he just setting the record straight? And what kind of outcome do you expect from NADCO?
Let me start from your first question in regards to the bipartisan, and let me first appreciate the process that has taken place. I want to appreciate the leaders and also the patience that we've seen with the citizens really awaiting and being positive to this outcome. And it's my hope that it really captures the aspirations of what we've been expecting. As my colleagues have also put it, I want to state that we are hopeful that there's going to be a positive conclusion on the discussion. And the IEBC issue is a very important issue because today, if something happens, then a by-election will have a challenge. So I'm happy that they are concluding and concluding well. I've stated before and said that let us give them time. And I want to say this is the way we should approach national issues. They should be in a dialogue form. They should be bipartisan. Issues should not be personalized. It should be discussions of policies of this country, and personal issues are completely aside. It should also not, after Saturday, when they table and give us their report, it should not be who is the winner or who is the loser. I believe that the benefit will be for all of us. I've seen a bit of the newspaper that part that I read that when the CS, the Cabinet Secretary, Professor Ndungu, when he appeared, he seemed to have said that the proposed tax cuts cannot be implemented immediately. One, I really want to appreciate because he was able to appear, because this was one of the thorny issues of the Finance Act, and was able to have talks with them and told them that at the moment, it might not be possible. An indication that in the future, we can be able to see and look at some of these issues. Remember this.
And yet that was the greatest issue of concern,
and that
how to
was
deal with the cost of living.
Very true.
In fact, as Emil said, that was the deal breaker. If it is not dealt with like that, then
yes,
they will not sign.
Then they will not sign. But you see, then I looked at it from yes, from the perspective that the CS has come and they've been able to have discussion, and he's been able to explain that it might not be done immediately. And indication then maybe later we can be able to look at it. But then I still ask myself a question. Remember, we added the committee 60 more days. Both houses passed that. So they've taken, I think, about 150 days, almost 4 months. Then I asked, then why did they not call in the minister at the beginning, at the initial time? Why at the tail end are we having Professor Ndongo coming in to be able to address it? It leaves some questions. But as we've said, we don't expect, even in exams, there's always room for, a miss of a mark. So we don't expect that all will be agreed to. But whatever agreements will be, agreed to by the parties, I want to urge the leaders. Both leaders, it should not be chest thumping. It should be a discussion of that as Kenyans, we have won as Kenyans because we do not have an issue of mandamano. I've seen the other time that there is some throw and Baba is being told, oh, tell us to go to the streets, let us allow us. I mean, people are tired of that. We are encouraging, and if you can hear even our talks as leaders, we are encouraging talks, we're encouraging discussions. We are tired of people's business being destroyed and people going to have discussions in the streets. It cannot work. The best way is to have discussions on table. And lastly, the expectation, yes, on President Uhuru, I feel, and I wanted to put it like this, that the surrounding of within there, some of the external Azimio leaders are the ones who are prompting some of these issues, and that is why Uhuru then comes out. It might not even be wanting to, but the flock, the surrounding pushes, and they push because of their personal interest in place.
But is that a fair assessment at a time when he has been blamed for having given a dilapidated economy several times? He has been blamed for taking extreme debt from the country. Isn't it just fair for him to come out and say, I'm being blamed for everything, yet
Trevor,
fault?
Let me say this morning that I say a big no. This is a former president, 10-year president of this country. The last thing that he should do, he should not lower himself to such kind of responses, to such kind of, if I were in his shoes, I would not even bother. I would sit back, relax, and enjoy my retirement and give advisory as required. Become a world and national figure that people even can seek advisory because you have the experience. You've been a 10-year. He's the only living president that we have who has served this country because Moi has rested, Kibaki has rested, may God rest their souls. He's the only one we have as a former president. We would want to pride with him as a former president, as a legend, as someone as the young people we look upon and look at his advice. But we don't want to take those steps whereby when somebody rattles you, we are out there and trying to respond. It's a bit low, so you should just leave it at that standard of a former president and let him just shine and rest at that particular level.
All right, Honorable Farah Malim is now joining us, Member of Parliament for Dadaab. Thank you for making time, Honorable Farah. Before you came in, we were talking about how the floods have been handled, and then now we are now talking about the NADCO report that is coming out on Saturday.
The what? National
Dialogue Committee report.
Yes.
And let's start with the floods, because I know your constituency in particular has also been affected quite much. What is the progress, what is being done now, and how has it been handled?
Nothing. So far? The government has done almost zero. I mean, sending some 2-3 helicopters, choppers to take 2 tons and 3 tons in a population of over 2 million people there, and everything is cut off is nothing. I mean, this is a total failure on the part of the government. The president or his deputy, I know the president was out of the country, his deputy or himself from wherever he is should have declared a national disaster, because that's what it is right now. Kilo of maize meal is costing 5 times what it used to cost before because it's not available. Delivering mothers cannot even get porridge. And there's nowhere, even with their money, they cannot buy because it's not available. So what we needed by now is for the government to declare national disaster, and for all assets, the entire Air Force, this military structure of us here, plus the World Food Program and the international community would come in, and then we will see how people can be supported with a lot of air droppings, with helicopters. You have to save lives. Lives are invaluable. They are not replaceable. They are not replaceable. Once you die, you've died. So we can't watch our Kenyans suffer like that. A lot of it is because this place has been ignored for the longest. For over 60 years of independence, we only have a tarmac road that stretches for less than 100 miles. That's all. In that whole infrastructure there.
Yeah.
That also goes for Lamu, I mean, and for Tana River. Certain aspects of Tana River, at least in Tana River, they do have some one road.
But isn't that what devolution was meant to address?
Yeah?
Isn't that what devolution was meant to address?
No. National disasters are not addressed by municipal, authorities. Nowhere in the world are they addressed by that. The economy of Florida is more than 10 times our economy here, this country called Kenya. And when there's a typhoon, when there's a hurricane, when there are floods, there's something called FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, and it kicks into action. And they come from all over to support it. What can the county governments do? That stuff that Rigathi was saying that they should go on. I know he's been there only for one term as a member of parliament before he became a deputy president. But for God's sake, he needs to do better than that. You can't run, your mouth the way he's doing it right now. You need to do your own research, go back and do the needful. He's a heartbeat away from the presidency of this country. God forbid, but if anything were to happen to William Ruto, he would be our president. With that kind of a material, telling that the governors go and take care of yourselves and plan for it, how? How do you plan for it? What can the governors do? What assets do they have to mitigate such a situation where they cannot get to an expectant mother or a delivered mother? Do they have helicopters? Do they have, what do they have, by the way? Let me ask you. There's nothing that they have that can address such a situation. This is bad.
So at this particular point, what are
this particular point this government has done, I mean, this is literally going to be the litmus test for the way we're going to deal with this government in the future. Because this is a failure, total, absolute failure. In the first case, I don't know where the advice came from, or whether the president himself is the one who chose to talk like that. He says there'll be no El Nino. In a way, you literally have told the international community to stand down. And then we get an El Nino worse than any El Nino we had before. The last time we had a serious El Nino was in 1997. It's nothing like what you have right now here. It's probably half of what you have now. And then there is no government. You see, in the very least, the government should run and call the international community, make what you call a flash appeal to the international community, say, look, we have this disaster. When, the seventh most powerful economy in this country, with this world, is the Turkish economy. I don't know whether it's the seventh or it's the 13th, but yeah, seventh. It's the seventh most. When they get an earthquake in one city, the whole world comes to assist them. Disasters are not something that even governments can on their own alone cope with. This is a serious disaster. And then you tell a small regional authority that probably gets $45 million in a year, that includes the recurrent expenditure and everything else, you plan for it.
Yeah.
I mean, that kind of ignorance, for God's sake, let us have a better government than we have now.
Okay.
It is serious, it is bad, and we need, this government needs to pull up its own socks and move with speed and see how we're going to assist them. In the very least, the declaration of what they call a national disaster would have been, World Food Program has got choppers all over. They have airplanes that can do what they call aerial droppings.
Yeah.
They can drop food from there. They are in Juba, they are in Uganda, they are in many parts of the region. And if the Kenya government had asked for that support, they would have mobilized all that.
Okay.
We would have a beehive of activities right now in the region. But we don't have that.
Okay. So now what you're saying is government has simply failed the people.
Completely, utterly, and literally failed in actually irredeemable manner, I can tell you. This is not the way you're going to run a government.
Okay.
It's not the way you're going to. It's not like the cheap, what do you call, reckless statements you make out there, shareholders and everything else, and you keep talking. I mean, that's not the way to deal with a situation like this.
Okay. All right. Now we're talking about the national
I am
dialogue.
just salivating. Honorable Farah Maalim, thank you, sir. The issues that we are dealing with in our country needs some level of seriousness. And you know, the most interesting thing, we have precedent. We have cases where Kenyans and Kenyan organizations, and like my brother Farah is saying, where international organizations have always been called when we had this.
Yeah.
And it worked. So when you are averagely intelligent and reasonably observing or observable, what do you see? What you see is that we are basically on our own. And then, what are we engaged in? I want to come back to the issue you've raised. We are engaged in throwing tantrums at Uhuru Kenyatta and how he stole every single... I've had my friends and brothers, sister here saying that, oh, Uhuru should not say anything. From the first weekend after Uhuru handed over power to William Ruto, the allegations, the statements, how he stole. First of all, I remember Deputy President Gachagua said Uhuru had stolen 26 billion. And Trevor, I remember I came to this show and I said, please, Deputy President, can you just go to DCI, report that Uhuru has stolen 26 billion, where he stole it, how he stole it, you have the evidence, report the case. Go and report to EACC. The same story every time this issue has come up. And my honest observation is very simple. Yes, I agree Uhuru should not engage, comment, or even suggest what his political situation is. If he decides to say he's in Azimio, that's his problem. But this notion that every weekend the story is about how Uhuru stole this money, how Uhuru took the money and went and did whatever with it. But you see, the facts are sanitized. Who was Uhuru's deputy president? It was Honorable the President, William Ruto. All right? When did the Eurobond come? During that time. What were the scandals that brought out the stealing of public money? All the dams, the Kimwarer, the Aror, all these things are related. And yet somehow I see my colleagues and friends screaming at Uhuru. Yes, I would like Uhuru to keep quiet. I would love him to sit down and retire peacefully. But the reality is that Uhuru cannot be the Achilles heel. Uhuru cannot be the reason why our country is in the mess it is in. He's part of it, but he's not completely all of it.
Okay.
My argument is there are many people who are in KK Alliance. There are many of us who are in Kenya Kwanza who have participated in making our country reach and get to the stage where it is. This blame game, according to me, has to reach a stage where you stop. Can you imagine if every governor in Kenya today, once he dethrones a sitting governor, or once the sitting governor retires after his 10 years, that all the governor does from Monday to Monday is talk about how this governor, yes, he misappropriated funds, yes, he mismanaged this county, yes, everything. When you are asking the current governor, my brother, yes, your funds in your CRF account, why are things not being done? Why are you not starting projects? For example, we are having El Nino rains. Why are you not organizing a team in a small way? Yeah. Oh, you know, the previous governor never set up an emergency fund. The previous governor is the one who had a problem with how your money. The country will become ungovernable.
Okay.
So yes, I agree that Uhuru needs to know that what he says and how he says it is weighty.
Yeah.
Because he's a former president and he has a following.
Yeah.
But I also would like to tell my brothers on the other side, stop beating a dead horse.
Okay.
Stop waking up every morning and anytime you see Uhuru talking in a church, he's the one you start with. Oh, in fact, you can see Uhuru now, he has a big stomach, he's fat, he's eating the things he stole from Kenyans. You can see now his family is the one which has,
go that way.
you know, his family is the one which has been running a cartel of milk.
Yeah.
The family is running a cartel.
It doesn't help anything.
Let us fix the issues that are affecting our country with or without Uhuru.
Okay. Mugatana, hold on 1 second because Farah.
You have to give me more time now because I've been away. Look, I do agree.
Yeah.
The worst curse that happened to this country is to have Uhuru as the president for 10 good years. Because he had absolutely no clue about anything else except witch hunt and kleptocracy. And it's open. Everybody knows that. Serious kleptocracy and trying to promote his family's business. It's during his time that he bought every milk company that was in this country. And it's not a secret that he left the coffers empty. Literally, cleaned it up. The only thing he had for that period is that. Look at the cost of any infrastructure that was put in there. Look at the SGR. Look at the, what do you call the expressway. The expressway was put at
27 billion.
At the Kibaki's time?
Yes.
I think it was 23. It was 27 or 23.
27.
And Kibaki said it's too expensive.
Yes.
How much are we paying for it now?
79 billion.
We're paying for about 80 billion, and it's still going on, by the way.
Okay.
So he came to do nothing else but to rob this country dry. It's a common knowledge. You know, we say in our language, if you say fire, your mouth is not going to go on fire. You're not going to burn your mouth because you've said fire. By telling the truth, we have a responsibility towards this, our nation to tell the truth.
Okay.
That is taken. I don't agree with this issue of the opposition running around and saying bring the cost of living down. That is not a function of opposition. It's not a legislature. It's the government of the day. We should be going out there into the people to make sure that we have a different government. If a government does not perform, you defeat it in the polls in the next election. You defeat it in the polls. But all that stuff you're hearing about, by the way, in that high-level political environment of this country, there's only one person who is not corrupt, and I'll tell you who he is. Kalonzo Musyoka. Everybody else.
I agree with you.
Everybody else is a crook. So this thing will continue. They will have a backroom sitting there, and they will exchange a few notes. I'm talking about, the kind of notes, not the notes the notes we know. And the things come back again, and it completely disappears. I have been in the politics of this country for the longest.
So you have absolutely no confidence in that?
Absolutely zero. Zero. That is the only honest guy we have out there. And by the way, he's a minority within the opposition right now. And I don't believe for one day that Raila will one day stand up there and say, Kalonzo Tosha. He'll never say that. I know that because some people are in politics as an enterprise. It is called transactional politics. Transactional politics. So you would work in a manner that you make the maximum economic benefits out of it.
You're part of the Azimio team.
I was part of the Azimio, I know. And I'm telling you, and I've said this, what I'm saying right now for the longest. Yeah. Okay. The one person who has had consistency in the politics of this country from day one until today is myself, my friend, let me tell you.
So what is your position now then?
My position is I have no faith in my what do you call other than the man I've mentioned right now. I don't have faith in the manner things are going on, even within the opposition. What stops him from standing out there and saying, look, I've retired from politics, I'm going to support this guy? Kalonzo Musyoka. He will never do it. Okay. He has to play these games because there's economics in it. Okay. So that is what Ruto, what the opposition, what they call leadership is. Yeah. That is what the government is. A government which led by, who has got a second deputy as Rigathi, and I mean, he's just a disaster. And somehow his own boss cannot rein him. So what's the impression? That is acceptable. If you can't rein your own, what they call lieutenants and deputies and take certain things serious, then what kind of a government is that? Okay. And then let me tell you, the other thing is that the one who has just left for the last 10 years went out there and drank his life through 10 years and stole his life through 10 years and did all sorts of what do you call things, awful things to people, took revenge on anybody that he had issues with. You get my point? And everything else, and that's it. And now he comes back again to the party. Why can't he just disappear and vanish for good?
All right.
Let's footnote.
Let's keep the former president out of this.
A footnote, Trevor.
Here to defend himself.
A footnote.
Yeah.
Just a footnote.
Yeah.
I think for us to shelve this thing, we now need to bring in a commission of inquiry on Uhuru's presidency. For us to know and legitimately conclude on the amount of money that was stolen, who he stole with, and how he stole with, bring the commission.
Okay. Mungatana.
No, I want to reiterate that when people on our side of the government stand up and say, we inherited an economy that was in tatters, we are not talking about Uhuru alone. We are talking about Uhuru's administration. And he should, for Christ's sake, stop personalizing. It's not you we are interested in, it's what you did and your team, okay? Like when you say that the dollars were not there when we came in, therefore there was no stabilization of the currency. We are saying facts. We are not talking from the air. When we say that we inherited, a bill with the oil marketers of 67 billion, which they were owed on stabilization of the pump fuel prices, that was the subsidy that had been put. In fact, it was put there politically so that the prices are in a certain range so that they can win the favor of the people. We are saying facts, that it was irresponsible of the government of the time to spend 30 billion on average every month, as a fuel subsidy that is being paid directly to oil marketers. Now, if you hear those kind of accusations, and if I was then the person who was standing as the head of that administration, I would keep quiet. I would probably attend a funeral and look very sad for the people who are there and not say anything about the accusations, because they are true. Figures don't lie. I would attend a wedding. I would attend, something normal that does not ruffle feathers, that does not make people be reminded of the things that you did. And we are spending a lot of time trying to clean up that situation. Okay. So when people say that administration had a problem, it's not personal. So don't stand up and start, there's something about populism, Trevor, that is very bad for a leader. It is very bad for a leader to make populist decisions that are costing the life of the people, there was a time we had a meeting, and the current president now said, let me be unpopular where I need to be unpopular, but do the right thing. And you people also be the leaders who are honest before God and your people. When you cannot deliver on, a classroom that you say you want to build it and pay the contractor within 6 months, and you don't have the CDF, tell the people as a member of parliament that I'm waiting for the allocation, then I will allocate the program, and then it will be carried out. That's the kind of honesty we want. Okay. Don't stand there and tell people, I will build this classroom within 1 month, and you don't have the allocation. So honesty in leadership is critical for us to be able to heal the wounds that we have and deal with the problems that we have. Okay. But I want to say something about the Senior Honorable Malim, what he has said. There's a way in which leadership operates, I am one of the people who does not believe you castigate, and give no solution. From where I stand, and I said it before he came, maybe he didn't have the benefit of listening to what we said here. What Anwar Guru said and what Deputy President Gachagua said, who is right, who is wrong, has not helped us go one step forward. What we need is the government to do something. And the governors to do something. The governors who did not hear the news that there was going to be El Nino or heavy rains are to blame to an extent because they did not plan mitigation measures. Same if the government does not have mitigation measures. But I have stayed here that our county, some mitigation measures were put in place. So you will see that something is happening. And Guyo in, I think it is in Isiolo, something was being done. But you see some counties, there's no response, as if they didn't hear the weatherman say something. But yes, something more needs to be done, and that's why we moved that motion of national importance in the Senate. And we believe that at some point, if the rains don't subside, we'll need to call in the international community.
Farah says it should be declared a national disaster.
It should at some point. But you see, that's not the first point of call. Because even those people, when they are coming, let me just say, if even those people, your neighbors, your friends, when they are coming, and they find you are asleep, and your house is burning, you are doing nothing, then those people will wonder what is wrong with you. You see, so let the government put everything, you know, like what was suggested in the discussions between the Council of Governors and the Deputy President. Let all development projects be stopped. Let all the funding go towards mitigation measures. And equally, the national government should do the same thing. It should preach to itself. Let them all come to Tana River, to Mombasa, to Northern Eastern. Now, at the third level now, you know, so we have the governors, we have the national government, and then now, at the third level, when now we see that despite everything else, we are still having a problem, then we should go to the international community, telling them this is what we have done, this is what we have done, but we still need this.
All right.
Can I just interject? Because, you know, Mungatana, you're lucky because you are on the river, and your people are called the riverine people. They live along the river. So even if the floods destroy all the roads, you could still use canoes and go down the river and downstream and upstream and deliver provisions to them. Even with the little I have myself, including my own personal, you know, resources from friends, you know, corporate social responsibility, I can put together 10, 20 million shillings to go out there and give to the people. But where do you pass through? The whole area is cut off. So even if the governors had 100 million, 200 million shillings, which they could rush and take it to the people, where do they pass? There are no roads. There are no roads. All the roads have been washed away. The only way you can do right now is to do the air droppings, air liftings. So the emergency is of such a nature. There is nothing an ordinary person can do about it. There's nothing, actually there's very little our national government can do about it, other than calling in, declaring a national disaster, and then getting all those assets from the World Food Program, from the international community, from other countries to bring in their assets, big helicopters, planes that are going to do the droppings, take it from Nairobi, take it from Garissa, and drop. But we don't have that. The government is sitting back there like a class 4 kid who does not know what emergency is about, and say, oh, you go and cope with it. You go and cope with it, you know, because you don't live in that kind of a life. And we have never lived. Listen, if we had the infrastructure that is there in the central region, in parts of Rift Valley, in many other parts in the country, for the last 60 years of independence, we would have something to start with. We haven't had that.
True.
Purely because of the mindset of the kind of people we have right now in government. You get my point? Purely that mindset, in which they say, who cares about them? And that's why we have problems. I was telling people yesterday, in Parliament, Lamu is in a mess, total absolute mess. Tana River is in a mess. What do we have those areas for? Just speculation, so that we hope, like the Red Indians, the Bajunis and what do you call the Pokomos and the rest of them will perish, and then you can go and settle other people there. So we need the land, we don't need the people. You get my point? I mean, those are the kind of things that one has got to think very hard. You leave those people feeling alien. You leave those people feeling, no wonder when somebody is coming from Turkana and coming to Nairobi, he says, I'm going to Kenya. Tunakwenda Kenya. Or coming from Northeastern Province, we're going to Kenya. You alienate people to the extent it is. This thing is going to explode at sometimes in the future. And that is what basically a national government people are supposed to think deep. And you know, every president who's been there, every president, Kibaki was there, Moi was there, Kenyatta was there. I can't remember about Kenyatta. I was too young to understand what he was doing. And I don't think because of his health situation and his age, advanced age, he had very little to do. It's only the people around him who were running the system for God knows how many years. He only was able to effectively run, I think, the first 5 years or 6 years. But all of them had that sensitivity, had that emotional attachment to the nation to say, let us. We never had that in the 10 years of what do you call Uhuru? Right now we are starting on a very bad note in the first year of this government. So basically what we are saying is right now is that this is not, it's not a joke. Okay. Lives are going to be lost. All right. And it's not good at all.
Okay, Mutinda.
Let me pick it up from where my colleagues have left and say that truly the previous regime failed Kenyans. And at where we are, it really needs a comprehensive, inclusive mitigation, disaster management strategy so as to sort some of these issues. And I want to challenge leaders, even who have been there earlier, should not use the media to critique so much. They should use the floor of the House to be able to address most of these issues that they've been able to raise. Blame games won't help, you know. When Deputy President came out and put his sentiments across, he was able to talk. Then I asked myself, what was the alternative that the governors offered? What we are seeing is the push and back of who did this, who did that. It should be a solution-based. And that is why the President, Dr. William Ruto, is so much focused on the solutions. And one of these solutions during his address, if you remember very clearly, was on the issue of the debt repayment issue. And he talked about the Eurobond, that he's been able to set the 300 million installment that is needed to be able to pay the outstanding 2 billion for the Eurobond, because by next year, this needs to be cleared. These are some of the focus, the solutions. When we even come back to these flood issues that we've had a discussion this morning, the plan is to construct over 100 dams in this country. This is going to be a long-term solution as far as the issues of floods are concerned. They are also going to improve our issue of agriculture, whereby we've looked at the agricultural issues in terms of food security and looked at the cutting of the cost in terms of the factors that we've reduced so as to reduce the cost of production, the cost of farming, so that the end product price can be able to be lowered. Those are the focuses that Kenya Kwanza is putting in place. I'm a bit, but I like his honesty when Farah Mheshimiwa talks about where Kalonzo has been. He'll never be appreciated. He'll never be given the mantle to carry. And it takes me back to a discussion one time we had when the opposition was trying to get into the issues of the Kenya Kwanza UDA, our own structures, trying to say that we have issues that us, we are very settled, and they don't see the thorn that is their side when one day Raila stood and said that, you know, Kalonzo is a suitable candidate. And the next day he changed that narrative. But I'm happy he confirms that he will never be given that mantle to run with. Okay. Why? Because it is issues that are based on personal issues, and that's why I say we hope and pray by Saturday, when the bipartisan committee hands over the report, whatever report that will be handed over, we should be able to accept and look at issues that what have been addressed to be actualized, to put in place, because sometimes we put measures in place, but we do not follow what we've been able to discuss and put on table. Right. And what has not been done or what has not been agreed upon, we look forward to see then how on the floor of the House do we bring about these issues, we put the solution that is basically needed. But leaders should stop these 4 years that are remaining. People are not interested on the issues of blame games in terms of who did what, who did not do what.
We've run out of time here, but
who should be seeking, who should be doing that dialogue? You know, Madam Senator, I really appreciate you and respect you so much. But for God's sake, call a spade a spade. who should be initiating these dialogues and these discussions and seeking ideas and the rest of it? It's the government of the day.
Okay.
Yes, and the bipartisan.
Okay.
It's just like a marriage. I mean, if you're married today and you go home, who initiates? The woman is not going to initiate. It's the man who's going to initiate.
Correct.
The husband.
Correct. And Kenya
women
Kwanza,
nowadays.
led by Kenya Kwanza, led by the president, is the one who accepted this.
All right, let's bring up
He's
some
the one
feedback.
who
There's a lot of
welcomed
feedback
The
coming
government-
through.
William Ruto
Ladies
accepted
and
this
gentlemen, there's a lot of
topic.
feedback coming through. Let's see what Kenyans are saying
Yeah, I
about the
agree.
discussions we've had.
I give him credit
Let's
for
bring
having
that up at
accepted
Trevor
them.
Mbija
Correct.
Season
Under a
TV
lot of
Kenya, use the
pressure.
hashtag Daybreak. Let's see what they're saying from all the conversations we've had here. Babu Michael says the effects of El Nino is huge in different parts of the country and is unimaginable, mostly in the coastal region. Is it that the mitigation measures were not above board, or the El Nino has been much stronger than warned? What's happening? Okay. Sir Nixon says, dear leaders, kindly note that a reasonable emergency fund should always be readily available, not only for El Nino rains, as you tend to think, but also for other calamities like earthquakes, disasters, winds, etc. Okay? Nathan says, to be honest, what we are witnessing here is just sad. Blame games while people are losing their lives and property. Okay. Engineer Lazaro says poor coordination started to be witnessed long before the El Nino rains. KK government needs to copy from Kibaki regime and unveil one channel where Wananchi receives daily briefings in order to avoid embarrassing contradictory statements. Okelo Mwalimu says listening to some of the senior government officials has become very disheartening and confusing. While poor Kenyans continue to suffer from the ravages of El Nino and poor economic plans, some leaders still have an audacity to spew lies from sunroofs. Who bewitched us? Tony Legal says, following the conversation, why should the president set a disaster management committee when we have a fully funded disaster national management authority? Gabi Wakasiaka says vested political interest, poor management and corruption have made Kenya's economy depreciate. Stability of our economy will remain untenable for a long time. Charlo Wood Rosie says the talks that will benefit all Kenyans are talks towards the reduction of the cost of living. Things are not good on the ground. Many people are really suffering. Both parties should put the interest of Kenyans first before any other interest. Gabi says the Bomas talks currently are just for personal interest. The talks or the report have nothing to do with the common Wananchi talks. Both the parties are self-centered. Kenyans, we should just pray seriously. Okay. Morris says it's sad to see Kenyans being impacted by floods and other disasters, and what leaders can do is pass blame. Honorable Nyonka and team, the disaster management bill is in the Senate. Pass it to have a legal framework to give disaster management a coordinated approach. Okay. Sawe says past leaders have the right to clarify their stance. Respect goes both ways. It's essential for those in government to refrain from insulting Uhuru, embrace responsibility and demonstrate genuine commitment to fulfilling promises. Eddie Williams says Honorable Farah Maalim has said it the way it should be. What has the National Disaster Management Unit done so far? The Kenya Kwanza government has failed in handling this disaster, and it started when the president ruled out El Nino. Leonard Masika says, I applaud His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta for what he did in this country as a president. We can't forget he led at the time when the corona pandemic was ravaging the world. We can't guess where it would be happening if it came at this time. We can guess where it would be happening if it came at this time, where floods are defeating the Kenya Kwanza government. Okay. That's where we'll leave it for now. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for making time. Coming up next is cooking tips. All right? Bye for now.